In this video, we will be looking at remote connections through SpecView. The video will go through setting up a remote and a local and how to establish communication between them. A quick note on terminology and some benefits of the multi-user system on SpecView before we start. The local PC is the PC with the SpecView project that we would like to remotely access. The local is connected to the instrumentation and would require a dongle or soft license with the remote option enabled. The remote PC is the PC that will be used to remotely access the local. It does not need to be connected to instrumentation and does not need a dongle or soft license. To upgrade the local's dongle or soft license to include the remote option, or to purchase a new SpecView dongle or soft license with the remote option, please contact your SpecView provider. Some benefits of the multi-user system in SpecView are as following. Being able to monitor a SpecView system without having to be physically present at the instrumentation. Multiple operator stations for large machines. Allows actions to be carried out on the local's copy of SpecView without interfering with local operators. So for example, if I want to remote into, let's say, Station A's copy of SpecView to alter and change or monitor the set point, I could use a third-party software such as TeamViewer or Remote Desktop. I can successfully remote into the PC. However, let's say Station A's operator is also making changes while I have remotely accessed the PC. Now, either Station A's operator and I will be fighting for control over that PC, or one of us would have to temporarily pause our tasks until the other person has completed theirs. It is either inconvenient for both of us or at least one of us. And this is where SpecView's multi-user system becomes useful. Using the multi-user system, I can remote into Station A's copy of SpecView and change and monitor the set point without interfering with Station A's operator. And lastly, multiple simultaneous remote access without interference. So from the previous example, if another user in addition to me wanted to remote into Station A's copy of SpecView, then indeed they can, depending on the local's soft license or dongle options. We would not interfere with each other or with the local operator. And now let's take a look at how we can set up the multi-user system. Step 1. Set up the local. Okay, so let's set up a local. The first thing we do is we go into the File menu and we go into Preferences. This will open the Preferences box for us. And under the Preferences box, there should be a Remote tab. If you don't see the Remote tab, it's because you don't have the remote option enabled on your on your soft license or your dongle. Please contact your SpecView provider to have that option enabled. In the Remotes tab, you'll notice that there are available connections that SpecView can listen through. These connections are the IP addresses of your PC, of the local PC, on the different networks that the PC is on. And you can select a connection for SpecView to listen through by clicking on the square beside the connection and clicking OK or Apply. You can also change the port or timeout settings by clicking on them. The port 3413 is the default port used for the multi-user system. SpecView has actually registered that port for use specifically for the multi-user system. And for the timeout, it's just the time it takes to attempt a reconnection if for whatever reason there is a failed connection to the local. So before I set up a connection for SpecView to listen through, I'm going to show the remote users attached list. Under the remotes menu, we can click on view connected users, and typically this should open the remote users attached list, and this list would give us a list of connections that SpecView is listening through. However, because I have not enabled a connection for SpecView to listen through, it right now says server not running across the top, and we do not see any connections in the box. So now let's set up a connection for SpecView to listen through. And I'm going to select this connection because on this network, on the 192.168.1 network, all of my instrumentation is connected. So I have all of my hardware that I want to communicate with on that network. So I'm going to listen through that network, or I'm going to have SpecView listen through that network. I'm going to click apply. I'm going to click OK to close the box. And if I was to return to remotes and view connected users, we can see that it does not say server not running at the top. And we can see that there is a connection that SpecView is listening through. And that is how we set up the local. Next, we're going to set up a user profile. Step 2, set up users. Okay, so let's set up a user for the multi-user system now. And we do that by going into the remotes menu on the local and clicking on user setup. This will open the remotes password setup box. And here we can add, edit, or delete users. A quick note before we continue. The users being set up with this box are only for the multi-user system and is completely different from SpecView's password system that enables its users to access certain objects on a screen. For more information on SpecView's password system, you can view our video on that topic. Continuing on, I'm going to click on add to add a user here, and we have to fill in the name, password fields, and choose an access level for our user. There are 3 access levels. Level 1 allows remote users to only read values. Level 2 allows remote users to read and write parameters. And level 3 allows users to acknowledge alarms in addition to everything in level 2. So if an alarm goes off when a user or a remote user is on the local and they can acknowledge the alarm remotely, then level 3 access should be assigned to the user. However, if an alarm goes off and a local operator might need to adjust the process on site, then the remote user should be assigned a level 2 access. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the name and give the user a level 2 access. I'm going to click OK. And we have added a user. Now I can edit the user's information by clicking on the user and clicking edit. And I could always click on the user and click delete to delete the user. So I'll click OK. And that finalizes the changes on user setup. And now we're ready for a remote connection. Step 3. Set up the remote. Okay, now we're ready to set up a remote connection through SpecView. And to demonstrate how to do so, I have used TeamViewer to remote into another PC that is visible on the left side of my screen here. And on the right side of the screen, I have the local PC that we have already set up. So on the remote PC, you start up SpecView, and on the start screen, you just click on remote. This pulls up the connection box, and if you've already established a remote connection to the local PC before, you will notice that connection in the drop down menu here, and you can click on the connection and click connect. However, since this is my first time, I'm going to have to add a new connection. So I'll click on new, and it opens up the edit connection box. And I have to now fill in the appropriate fields to set up the connection. The majority of the fields here can be left blank or as is, as their default. The big fields that you have to fill in are description, network, username, and password. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. For network, it's the available connection that we enabled on the local PC for SpecView to listen through. In our case, it was 192.168.1.234. The port number was 3413. It was a default port. Everything else can be left blank or at the default value. For username and password, you have the option of leaving these two fields blank, and when you try to remotely connect to a local PC the next time or any time, you'll be asked to fill in those credentials. It could be an extra layer of security if you choose to go down that route. However, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to fill it in here. And once I'm done, I just click on save. And I can always edit a connection by clicking on it in the drop-down menu, clicking edit. I could always delete the connection by clicking on delete. However, I'm happy with the connection settings here. Everything looks right, so I'm going to click on save. And I'm going to click on connect. And you might get this network status box, and if you do get it, just click on update automatically next time, and then click on update and go online. And you might get a warning saying that your remote PC or your local PC is running a different version of SpecView, which is fine. And you can just click OK on that as well. And now you have successfully created a remote connection into the local. So if I was to click here to enter the project, you can see that they're both on the same project. And I can navigate to different pages on the remote connection, and it does not affect the local PC at all. I can change values here on the on the remote. And then when I navigate to that same page on the local PC, you can see that it has actually updated on the local PC as well. And I could change another value. And you can see that's updated on the local. Now, if I was to change it on the local PC here, it takes a while to update on the remote, but then you see that it does update on the remote as well. And that's basically an overview of the multi-user system through SpecView. And if you have any questions or additional concerns, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information will be in the description below. I hope the video has been informative. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.